talk to me about the support that you had in that process. You mentioned your coach, but how were you supported? How do you feel you were supported? Like, what really made the difference for you in making that transition?
I had different types of support. I had support of friends and family. And that was different because playing the superwoman role makes it very difficult to ask for support. And so I had to learn to say what I needed from people. And people in my life, my mom, my brothers, my relatives. And also, I come from a family that they're overachievers actually, but the entrepreneurial piece of it is not represented in my family, so it's new to them as well. So I went through fears of saying, okay, I'm not going to go do the corporate world. I'm really going to be a designer, an interior designer, and knowing how that would be processed. So that was part of it as well. But once I asked and made the statement about it, what I was going to do, I was met with open arms. But I'd made up in my head that it wasn't necessarily going to be that way.
So interesting, right?
Yeah.
What you anticipated was not what you actually found. I think that's what happens. When you step into your passion, or what you're passionate about, you would be surprised at the level of support that shows up that you didn't realize or you hadn't expected. It's the scariest, I think that's the scariest thing to do. It's the scariest step is to step into it, even when you anticipate a poor reception. Because what you're doing is you're broadcasting that it's more important to you to be authentic in your experience than what the perception may be on the other side. I think that's the hardest thing to ever do. Because, we're social beings. We're here to collaborate and work with people, and you don't want to feel rejected or abandoned or, squashed in any way. But when you do it, amazing, amazing things happen.
Absolutely. So my family was very supportive. My friends were supportive. So I had that level of emotional support. Financially, my purpose and passion supported me. It was in a different way. So I think you get accustomed to, two things. I got accustomed to believing that the job was taking care of me. But that's a myth, because a job can fold at any time. And now I'm in a position to really take care of myself, because you can't, no one can take my talents and gifts from me, or my ability to create and manifest based on that. That was a key thing that I learned as well. And also, if you're used to getting a paycheck at the beginning and, in the once a month, what have you, in business there are cycles, and, money comes in waves, and that took some getting used to. But just understanding that was part of, business cycles and just cycles in life. I have a lot of cycles. So one of them is that I kind of change directions major every 10 years in my life, career-wise. So it's just another cycle that is present with me.
Wow. How many of you know what you're passionate about? Just show of hands. How many of you are living it actively day to day? Yeah, stick with it. Stick with it. That's a part of what these discussions are about too. Hopefully to provide some inspiration and support and witnessing of what's going on. Does anybody have a question for Janice at this point about her experience?
Well, as I'm listening, I really see what you're beginning from being a social worker and being with people and looking at their needs was a big step for you. It was probably the heart of everything, because most people are afraid of each other. And given that you were very adventurous and you were very concerned about others, it kind of grew into that. So I really think that being a social worker and having the diversity that you had, and also you always had a spark, not being good enough, not having to do it another way. There's always something driving you in addition to your commitment for excellence and being somebody. I mean, there's a lot more to be said what you've said.
Thank you.
Because that's a big conversation.
Yeah.
And it's not that simple.
Yes, no, it isn't. And during that time, when I was a social worker, I hated it. At the time, I just absolutely felt it was a total misstep for me. And couldn't wait to get out of it, that kind of thing. And then everything I have done to date helps me directly at where I am today. It's amazing how everything I've done, no matter how schizophrenic it seems, I use all of it. I use all of it in design. I use it every day. So you never know while you're working on something.
You spoke about your manifestations for your life and your